My beloved brothers and sisters, when the first light of dawn touches the sky, it isn't just another morning. It is a personal invitation from the one who created you. Fajr is not only a prayer, it is a moment when your soul is called awake before your body, a moment when the world is quiet enough for you to hear what your heart truly needs. And when you choose to stay awake after Fajr, you are not simply resisting sleep, you are stepping into a sacred window where blessings descend like gentle rain, where clarity rises the way the sun does, slow, soft, certain. This is the time when your thoughts are pure, your heart is calm, and your path feels closer than ever. Staying awake after Fajr is choosing light over heaviness, purpose over comfort, and presence over distraction. It is reminding your soul that the day belongs to the one who starts it with intention, gratitude, and remembrance. And when you honor this early hour, you will find that life begins to honor you back. There is a quiet truth hidden in the early hours of the morning, a truth that reveals itself only to the heart that chooses to stay awake after Fajr. It is a truth woven into the rhythm of creation, into the way the sky slowly opens, into the gentle stillness that wraps the world before it fully wakes. When you remain awake after Fajr, you step into a space that very few people ever taste, a space where the veil between your worries and your wisdom becomes thin, where clarity comes not in loud bursts, but in soft whispers that settle in the chest like calm rain. The moments after Fajr are not ordinary moments. They are a timing chosen with purpose, a timing that carries a spiritual weight because it is built upon obedience, awareness, and the intention to start the day with the one who gave it. When you choose to stay awake after Fajr, you are not simply resisting sleep. You are responding to an invitation that has been extended to you since the beginning of your life. The invitation to rise when the world sleeps, to breathe when the air is pure, to think when the mind is clear, and to remember when your heart is still open from prayer. In these early minutes, the heart is softer than it will be for the rest of the day. This is the time when distractions have not yet arrived, when the burdens you carry have not had the chance to overwhelm you, when the world has not yet demanded anything of you. This is the moment when your soul feels closest to purpose because you have just stood in front of your Creator, just bowed, just whispered your needs into the unseen, and just submitted your hopes into hands far more capable than your own. Staying awake after Fajr means carrying that state of surrender into the early light. It means allowing the peace you experienced in prayer to move into your actions, your breath, your thoughts, your plans. It means choosing to remain with your intention instead of falling back into unconsciousness. And when you make that choice consistently, something inside you begins to shift. The early morning becomes a place of internal transformation. Your thoughts become clearer, more honest, more centered. The ideas you have in these moments are not the rushed ideas of the afternoon or the tired ones of the night. They are the pure thoughts of a mind untouched by noise. You begin to realize that the world's chaos has not yet reached you, and in this small window of silence, you can see your life with a clarity that is rare. The problems that felt heavy the night before seem lighter now, not because they have disappeared, but because you are looking at them through the lens of a rested heart and a peaceful mind, the blessings you forgot. To acknowledge, return to your awareness. The intentions you wanted to strengthen begin to surface again. The dreams you buried under stress start to breathe. These are the mornings when your heart speaks in a language that the rest of the day rarely allows. These are the mornings when you understand yourself more deeply than usual. There is also a spiritual rhythm in the early morning that you become attuned to once you stay awake after Fajr consistently. It is the rhythm of creation itself. Notice how the birds begin their day, not with hesitation or exhaustion, but with instinctive praise. Notice how the sky shifts from darkness to softness, as if whispering that transitions do not need to be rushed. Notice how the world awakens gently, step by step, as if reminding you that you too can start your day with calm, with grounding, with purpose. When you stay awake after Fajr, you join this rhythm instead of fighting against it. You move with the natural unfolding of time rather than attempting to force your own pace. And once your heart syncs with this rhythm, your life begins to feel less chaotic. Not because circumstances change, but because your internal state shifts. You become more intentional, more anchored, more spiritually awake. There is a profound blessing in being awake while the world sleeps. It gives you a sense of privacy with your own soul. In these moments, you are not performing for anyone. You are not reacting to anyone. You are not filling roles or meeting expectations. You are simply being raw, honest, connected to your own breath and your own purpose. This is the time when the internal noise quiets enough for you to hear what your soul has been trying to tell you. Sometimes it tells you that you need to let go of something you have been holding too tightly. Sometimes it tells you to be patient with a journey that feels slow. Sometimes it reminds you that your worth is not tied to your productivity or your failures. And sometimes it simply sits with you, allowing you to feel seen in a way you rarely allow yourself to feel seen during the rest of the day. Staying awake after Fajr opens the space for these conversations between you and your own heart. Conversations that can change the course of your life. There is also discipline in choosing not to return to sleep after Fajr, and this discipline becomes a form of purification. It teaches you to honor your commitments, starting with your commitment to yourself and your Creator. It teaches you that spiritual growth is built on consistency, not convenience. It teaches you that comfort is not always the path to fulfillment. When you train your body to rise with intention, your mind begins to follow. You become less reactive and more proactive. You start to greet the day instead of letting the day drag you forward. The person who stays awake after Fajr is someone who has decided to own their mornings and therefore owns their mindset. This discipline spills into every other area of your life. You make better decisions. You manage your time with more clarity. You feel more grounded in your responsibilities rather than overwhelmed by them. And all of this begins with a simple choice: to stay awake. The blessings of the early morning are also practical. The tasks you complete after Fajr feel easier because your mind is at its peak. You are not yet tired. You are not yet burdened. You are not yet stretched thin. This is the most productive time of the day, the time when creativity is high and mental clarity is sharp. Whether you read, plan, write, study, reflect, or simply breathe with intention, the work you do in these moments carries more weight and more meaning. It feels as if every minute expands, as if time stretches itself for you. What takes you hours later in the day may take you only a fraction of that time now. This is not accidental. It is part of the blessing of this sacred window. When you honor the early morning honors you in return. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally, the moments after Fajr hold a unique power. It is a time when your heart has just engaged in worship, when your soul has just been reminded of its purpose, when your mind has just tasted stillness. If you go back to sleep immediately after experiencing that, you lose the opportunity to carry that spiritual state into your day. You lose the chance to let that peace settle deeper. You lose the chance to shape your morning with intention. But when you choose to remain awake, you are telling yourself that you want to preserve that light. You want to anchor it. You want to live from it. And that decision becomes the foundation upon which the rest of your day is built. The early morning becomes your sanctuary. It becomes the place where you recharge before the world drains you. It becomes the place where you set your intentions before distractions infiltrate your thoughts. It becomes the place where you choose who you want to be that day instead of letting circumstances decide for you. Staying awake after Fajr is not only about catching blessings, it is about shaping your identity through discipline, purpose, and spiritual awareness. The person who rises early becomes someone who honors their time, their energy, and their connection to the divine. Over time, this practice transforms you. It softens your heart. It sharpens your mind. It strengthens your spirit. It gives you a level of self-control that becomes visible not only to you, but to the people around you. You become calmer, more patient, more present. You react less and reflect more. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing that you began your day in the most sacred way possible. And that kind of grounding cannot be manufactured through worldly means. It comes from aligning your morning with spiritual truth. Staying awake after Fajr opens doors inside you that you did not know were locked. It allows you to access a level of clarity that you did not realize was available to you. It helps you heal from things you have been avoiding. It helps you reconnect to hopes you abandoned. It helps you make space for gratitude, for humility, for softness. It is a time when your heart is at its most receptive, and the insights that come in these moments can shift the direction of your life in ways you never expected. The early morning becomes the place where growth begins, quietly, gently, consistently. When you rise in these sacred minutes, you also begin to understand that life is not about rushing. It is not about filling every moment with tasks. It is not about chasing goals without grounding yourself first. Life is about alignment. It is about centering yourself before stepping into the world. It is about grounding your heart so deeply that nothing external can shake you easily. The early morning gives you the chance to do that every single day. It gives you the chance to begin from a place of peace instead of panic. It gives you the chance to choose intention over autopilot. This is why the early morning feels different. This is why people who remain awake after Fajr describe it as a blessing that cannot be explained, only felt. When you stay awake, you align yourself with a rhythm that brings clarity, peace, direction, and spiritual nourishment. And once you experience it consistently, you begin to wonder how you ever lived without it. There is a strength that is born in the quiet moments after Fajr, a strength that many people never discover because they fall back asleep before they ever give themselves the chance to feel it. When you choose to stay awake after Fajr, you enter a realm of discipline and purpose that reshapes who you are from the inside out. It is not simply the act of keeping your eyes open. It is the act of training your heart to lead, training your mind to listen, training your body to follow the rhythm of intention rather than the pull of habit. Discipline in these early hours is not harsh. It is gentle, soft, and deeply spiritual. It is the kind of discipline that whispers rather than shouts, the kind that lifts rather than burdens, the kind that builds rather than breaks. When your heart chooses purpose over comfort, especially when the world is still asleep, you experience a dimension of self-mastery that cannot be found anywhere else in the day. The early morning tests your sincerity, and every time you choose to rise, you become a little stronger, a little clearer, a little more aligned. Staying awake after Fajr becomes an act of presence. In a world where most people live in constant distraction, this small act becomes a declaration that you refuse to live unconsciously. You begin your day fully aware, fully awake, fully engaged. When you sit with yourself after prayer, when you breathe slowly, when you reflect on the quiet around you, you are grounding your heart in a way that few people ever do. Presence is rare because it requires slowing down, and staying awake after Fajr gives you the perfect environment to cultivate that presence. It is in these moments that your thoughts are born from calm rather than chaos. It is in these moments that your emotions settle enough for you to see them clearly. It is in these moments that you can understand yourself without the noise of the world shaping your perception. The discipline of staying awake after Fajr also teaches you consistency. It is easy to rise once. It is powerful to rise again and again. Each morning becomes a quiet agreement between you and the best version of yourself. You begin to trust yourself more because you see yourself following through on your intentions. You begin to feel more capable because you prove to yourself that you can choose purpose even when comfort calls louder. And slowly this discipline moves beyond the morning. It seeps into your decisions, your habits, your reactions. You find yourself becoming more patient when the day becomes difficult because you began it with intentional strength. You find yourself resisting temptations that used to overwhelm you because you have trained your heart to choose meaning over ease. You find yourself relying more on spiritual grounding than emotional impulsiveness because your day started with clarity instead of sleep. One of the deepest transformations that happens when you stay awake after Fajr is the shift in your internal dialogue. The early morning has a way of softening the voice of fear and amplifying the voice of trust. You begin to speak to yourself with more compassion, more wisdom, more patience. You begin to see your life from a higher perspective because the quiet gives you space to reflect without judgment. In these moments, you realize that your struggles do not define you, your past does not confine you, and your mistakes do not diminish your worth. The early morning becomes a mirror that reflects the truth of who you are, someone capable of change, someone deserving of peace, someone connected to purpose even when life feels heavy. This shift in your internal dialogue becomes the foundation of emotional resilience. You carry that gentleness with you into the day, and it protects you from the negativity that might otherwise shake you. The discipline of staying awake also develops a form of emotional endurance. When you rise early consistently, you learn how to sit with discomfort without letting it defeat you. You learn how to stay steady even when your body is tired. You learn how to hold yourself through difficulty instead of escaping it. This emotional endurance strengthens your relationships because you become less reactive and more reflective. You pause before responding. You speak from a place of understanding rather than irritation. You choose patience over impulse. The morning taught you how to slow down, and you bring that slowness into your interactions, creating more peace around you and within you. There is also a deep spiritual anchoring that forms when you stay awake after Fajr. Prayer opens your heart. But what you do after prayer determines how deeply that opening settles. When you remain awake, you give your heart time to absorb the peace that was placed in it during prayer. You let that peace sink, expand, and settle into your chest. You allow it to become a lens through which you see the world for the rest of the day. You begin to view your responsibilities differently. They no longer feel like burdens. They feel like opportunities to live with intention. You begin to view your challenges differently. They no longer feel like punishments. They feel like invitations to grow. You begin to view your blessings differently. They no longer feel distant. They feel close, clear, and abundant. The early morning also sharpens your self-awareness. When you sit in stillness while the world sleeps, you begin to notice things about yourself that you overlook during the busyness of the day. You notice what makes your heart tense, what brings it peace, what drains you, what nourishes you. You begin to understand your emotional patterns, your spiritual needs, your mental habits. This self-awareness becomes a powerful tool for personal growth. It helps you make decisions that align with your values instead of your fears. It helps you set boundaries without guilt. It helps you recognize unhealthy attachments before they consume you. And all of this begins with the simple choice to stay awake when the world invites you to sleep. When you build the discipline to remain awake after Fajr, you also build the discipline to show up for your life. You start to organize your day before it organizes you. You reflect on your intentions before you react to circumstances. You shape your spiritual state before external events shape your emotional state. This proactive way of living replaces the passive drifting that many people fall into. It gives you control, not over life itself, but over the way you meet life. It gives you a sense of empowerment grounded not in ego, but in humility. You rise not to prove yourself to the world, but to honor. The gift of the morning. The early hours after Fajr become an anchor of stability. When life becomes chaotic, you return to these mornings for grounding. When your emotions feel overwhelming, the memory of your early peace reminds you of your center. When your mind becomes scattered, the discipline of the morning gathers you again. This anchor keeps you from drifting into fear, into confusion, into hopelessness. It is the quiet reminder that no matter how heavy your day becomes, you began it with clarity, with intention, with the remembrance of the one who guides you. That awareness becomes a protective shield, a spiritual armor, a gentle strength woven into your heart. Staying awake after Fajr also changes the way you view time. You begin to realize that the morning is not a small part of the day, it is the foundation of the entire day. When you stay awake, you enter the hours with a sense of spaciousness. You feel like time expands for you because your mind is focused, your heart is calm, and your priorities are clear. You get more done in less time. You feel less rushed, less overwhelmed, less scattered. You move with purpose, and purpose multiplies time. On the days when you sleep after Fajr, you can feel the difference immediately. The day feels heavier, messier, more hurried. You feel like you are running behind even when you are not. You lose hours not in sleep but in the fog that follows. This contrast is what teaches you the value of the morning. It becomes something you want to protect rather than surrender. The discipline of staying awake after Fajr strengthens your connection to gratitude. In the early quiet, you begin to notice blessings that you overlook during the busyness of the day. The soft light, the calm air, the beating of your own heart, the ability to breathe, the warmth of your home, the safety of your environment. These small things feel big. When the world is still, gratitude grows naturally in the morning because there is space for it to grow. And the more grateful you become, the more you shift the way you experience your life. Blessings begin to feel abundant instead of scarce. You begin to feel supported rather than alone. You begin to notice how much you already have rather than obsessing over what you lack. This shift in perspective becomes a source of emotional strength that carries you through the hardest moments. There is also a profound sense of dignity that comes from rising early. It is the dignity of someone who respects their time, their purpose, their connection to the divine. It is the dignity of someone who shows up for themselves even when no one is watching. It is the dignity of someone who chooses growth over comfort, clarity over numbness, intention over habit. This dignity is not loud, it is quiet and internal, but it changes the way you walk through the world. It lifts your posture, softens your expression, steadies your steps. It gives you a sense of inner nobility that cannot be shaken by external events. Staying awake after Fajr also purifies the heart from the heaviness that accumulates overnight. The early morning acts like a spiritual reset. It clears away anxiety before it takes root. It dissolves emotional knots before they grow tighter. It washes away negativity before it stains your day. This purification is subtle but powerful. You begin to notice that you feel lighter, more hopeful, more open. You carry less frustration, less fear, less resentment. The morning light becomes a symbol of the internal light you are nurturing. And the more you protect this practice, the brighter that light becomes. The discipline of staying awake after Fajr is also an act of courage. It takes courage to rise when your body wants comfort. It takes courage to face your thoughts instead, sleeping through them. It takes courage to step into the day before anyone else. It takes courage to choose growth when it is easier to choose sleep. And with every morning that you rise, you strengthen that courage. You build a spiritual resilience that stays with you long after the sun rises fully. You begin to trust that you can handle what the day brings because you have already faced yourself in the quietest hour. The early morning becomes a teacher. It teaches you patience as you sit in stillness. It teaches you surrender as you release the desires of sleep for something higher. It teaches you consistency as you rise again and again. It teaches you gratitude as you witness the softness of dawn. It teaches you humility as you remember that every breath is a gift. And these lessons do not stay in the morning. They become a part of your character. They shape the way you speak, the way you treat people, the way you carry your responsibilities, the way you handle your struggles. Over time, you begin to notice that people around you feel a difference in you. They may not know what changed, but they see the calmness in your eyes, the steadiness in your voice, the softness in your manner. They see that you are centered, grounded, present. And when they ask what shifted, you will know that the answer lies in those early moments when you chose discipline over ease, purpose over comfort, awakening over sleep. Staying awake after Fajr is not just a practice, it is a transformation. It is the cultivation of a heart that is strong enough to face the world, yet soft enough to remain humble. It is the shaping of a mind that is clear enough to make wise decisions, yet quiet enough to listen deeply. It is the strengthening of a spirit that is grounded enough to withstand storms, yet open enough to receive blessings. It is the building of a life that begins with intention, Wraith. R than accident. Clarity rather than confusion. Purpose rather than habit. And all of this begins in the stillness of dawn when the heart chooses to rise instead of returning to sleep.